In a country where the future is supposed to be written in the classrooms of our children, we have instead built a monument to mediocrity, a fortress of fraud, and a morgue for potential. The headlines scream about an 88% pass rate, a triumph of the Rainbow Nation, but those headlines are a lie designed to make you feel safe while everything around you burns. The truth is far darker, far more terrifying, and far more honest than any newspaper will ever tell you. You need to understand that the 30% pass mark is a myth, but more than that, the 30% pass mark is a fiction that covers up a brutal reality where our children are learning almost nothing at all. Imagine walking into a grade 12 classroom in a rural village right now, in this very month of July. You would not see a classroom. You would see a battlefield. The windows are broken, the roof is leaking, and there is no chalkboard, just a piece of wood painted black. The library that was promised is a cupboard with old worn-out books. The toilet is a hole in the ground that fills up with rain. The teacher who is supposed to be preparing these children for the future was hired through a bribe and has no idea what they are talking about. They cannot distinguish Uganda from Gambia, Gabon, or Ghana. They think those countries are all the same place because they never studied geography themselves. They were given this job because they paid a senior official 6,500 rands and offered a sexual favor. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented evidence. The government tells you that a child passes with 30%, but what does that 30% actually mean? It means that in a system where school-based assessment marks are faked, and they know they are faked, the learner sits down to write an exam where the marking guidelines are so full of errors that Umalusi, the quality assurer, found mistakes in 65 out of 144 of them. The marker sitting at that table is not a qualified educator. They are someone who paid for the privilege of being there. They are speed reading through scripts because the department wants to save money on overtime. They are looking for the easy answers, the memorized phrases, the spoon-fed lines that the children have been drilled on for the last 3 months. That is the Matric exam. A memory test of a scripted answer that has nothing to do with intelligence or understanding. Let us be brutally honest about the numbers. When the Minister of Basic Education stands up and tells us that we have an 88% pass rate, she is counting the children who made it to the end of the line. But what about the children who never made it? Of the 1.2 million children who started grade 1 in 2014, only 778,000 reached grade 12 in 2025. Almost 500,000 children did not vanish into thin air. They vanished because the system failed them so completely that they gave up. They were hungry. They were abused. They were told they were stupid by teachers who themselves could not pass a grade 6 maths test. The real pass rate of that cohort, the one that accounts for all those lost children, is 54.7%. But even that number is a lie because it assumes the 30% pass mark is a real mark. It is not. Let me take you inside the scam of the school-based assessment, the SBA. This is where the department awards 25% of a learner's mark based on continuous assessment done by the school. In the richer schools, this is a genuine assessment. In the poor schools, it is a birthday present. Teachers inflate the marks to make their schools look good. They give a child 15 out of 25 for doing nothing. Umalusi knows this. They have a rule. If the SBA mark is more than 10% higher than the exam mark, they discount it. They throw out the 25% entirely and just use the exam. But when the exam is marked at the level of a drunk man crossing a road in the dark, the learner scrapes through on a 30% threshold that is effectively a 20% pass. If you raise the mathematics pass mark to 40%, the pass rate collapses to 47%. If you raise it to 50%, only 30% of students pass. That is the reality. 70% of our children cannot achieve a 50% mark in mathematics. That is not because they are stupid. It is because they have been taught by people who are stupid. Or rather, by people who are unqualified, corrupt, and protected by a union that would burn down the country before letting them face the consequences. The union I am speaking of is SADTU, and it has become the greatest cancer in this country's education system. To understand the madness, you must understand the murder of Nkosinathi Zondi. Nkosinathi Zondi was a principal in KwaZulu-Natal, and he was a man of principle. He campaigned for his position within SADTU on an anti-corruption ticket. He wanted to stop the Jobs for Cash scandal. In response, the provincial secretary of SADTU, Mfundi Sibia, and a group of SADTU principals decided and conspired to kill him. They arranged a hitman. They conducted a reconnaissance of his house. 2 gunmen came back and shot him dead in his driveway. That is the level of political violence we are dealing with in our schools. It is not a union, it is a syndicate. It is a protection racket that sells teaching posts for 30,000 rands, head of department posts for 50,000 rands, and deputy principal posts for 100,000 rands. They will demand 3 cattle and a fat cow. They will demand sex from desperate women seeking a job. They will assign an incompetent teacher to a subject they never studied because the teacher paid them for the privilege. Do you think I'm exaggerating? Let me tell you about the principal in Vryburg in the northwest. She's begging for a transfer because SADTU members are threatening to kill her if she does not leave her post. She said, "Let me rather go than die for a position." She is booked off with depression because her life is not worth the battle. Principal at Blokombo Secondary School in Cape Town, whose African language teacher, Vuyo Duna, was gunned down in his driveway just moments before school started. What was his crime? He had affidavits that would expose the SGB members for irregular appointments of unqualified staff. He was silenced. In KwaZulu-Natal, the department is forced to close schools just so SADTU members can attend a Women's Day celebration. Parents are warned that the safety of learners cannot be assured. The union is so powerful that even the minister fears it. Angie Motshekga knew it. The current minister knows it. They are held hostage by a voting bloc of 200,000 members who have told them unequivocally that they will not allow teacher competency tests. They will not allow anyone to test whether their members actually know what they are teaching. The union fights tooth and nail against any attempt to measure competence, because they know that most of their members would fail. Let us talk about the teachers in these classrooms. In 2013, we found out that up to 60% of grade 6 teachers could not pass the tests they were setting for their own pupils. The National Education Evaluation and Development Unit confirmed that many public school teachers lack knowledge of their subject, knowledge of the curriculum, and knowledge of how to teach their subject. This is the nightmare we are living. I recently read a report from a university in South Africa that found 43% of pre-service social sciences teachers do not even want to teach geography or history. They have no passion for it. Many of them have never even studied geography. They are teaching our children about the world without knowing where the world is. If a social sciences educator cannot tell you the difference between Uganda, Gambia, Gabon, and Ghana, which is a fact documented in multiple studies, then they are worse than useless. They are actively harming the learner's ability to understand the planet they live on. The learners would be better off with a textbook and an internet connection, left alone to figure it out for themselves. That is not an insult to the profession. That is the cruel and documented reality of a profession that has been hollowed out. Now, let us turn to the feeding schemes. The National School Nutrition Program is supposed to provide at least 1 nutritious meal a day to our poorest learners. In rural areas, where poverty is most acute, this meal is often the only thing a child will eat all day, but the principals, many of whom have big stomachs and drive big cars, have turned the nutrition program into a feeding trough for themselves. At Ulwazi High School in Dansane, a no-fee school serving 1,200 learners, the principal and SGB members treated the school account like a private cash machine. They blew more than 1 million rands on restaurants, liquor, and ATMs. The bank statements showed 250,000 rands spent at upmarket restaurants, 226,000 rands in cashback at grocery stores, and payments to car washes. Meanwhile, the learners received only one meal a day instead of two. The school was 375,000 rand in debt. At Batubatse Primary School in Limpopo, the principal and SGB treasurer made it a habit to buy lunch with the school's bank card almost every day. The food was stolen, and the milk was diluted with water. 2 cell phones for the principal cost the school 80,000 rands, and both are now missing. Just last month, thieves raided a school kitchen and stole rice, tinned fish, chicken livers, and electrical cables, leaving children without meals. The school is not a sanctuary, it is a crime scene. And what happens to the children in these schools when they are not being starved? They are being abused. This is the most difficult part of this story, but it must be told. Between 2021 and 2025, 176 teachers were found guilty of sexual misconduct involving learners. More than 100 cases were documented in 2024-2025 alone. These cases are not just male teachers abusing female learners, they are every conceivable combination. We have cases of female teachers abusing male learners, male teachers abusing male learners, and female teachers abusing female learners. At St. John's College in Mthatha, 7 teachers were suspended for impregnating pupils and even paying them to have abortions. The learners protested and shut down the college. In KwaZulu-Natal, we heard about a female history teacher who had sex with 7 boys between the ages of 17 and 18. And then there are the principals, the guardians who become the predators. A 51-year-old principal in Limpopo, Cornelius Sebotoma, was arrested for sexually assaulting a 17-year-old learner. She had gone to his office to retrieve a confiscated cell phone. He touched her inappropriately and sexually assaulted her. A deputy principal in Bronkhorstspruit was arrested for raping an 8-year-old learner on 3 separate occasions. The mother only discovered it when she noticed her daughter walking strangely. The list is endless, and the pain is immeasurable. This brings me to what the teachers do with their time instead of teaching. Every Friday, in rural schools across South Africa, thousands of schools become ghost towns. The teachers are leaving early to go home for the weekend. On paydays, the children are told to go home because the teachers have errands to run. The Mail and Guardian reported years ago that this is the norm, and it has not changed. At Aganga Tuto Primary School in the Northern Cape, the principal and teachers were leaving early every Friday and arriving late on Mondays. The school once had 250 learners. It now has fewer than 40. One parent told the media, "People see teachers in town every Friday going to their homes. Children only come to school on Friday to eat and then go home because there are no teachers." The school became a ghost town because the adults just abandoned it. And when a teacher or a principal dies, the school closes for half a day. If a relative dies, they close. Funerals are a convenient excuse. It is all a racket, and the system is built to protect it. The union, the department, the officials, they are all part of the same syndicate. If you report the problem, you are reporting to the problem. You are gambling with your life. Why is this happening? Why is the system so broken? Because the school governing bodies, the SGBs, have been captured. In rural communities, the SGB chairperson is the only person with access to money. The schools are the only institution in the village with a budget. And that budget is a fortune. People will kill to control it. They will murder each other to be the chairperson. The South African Schools Act says the SGB member cannot be paid. It is a voluntary position. But that is a fiction. The position is worth a fortune in access. The DA has tracked 5.2 million rands in confirmed misappropriation in just one reporting period, but that is only what they caught. The real figure is multiples higher. People are dying for that access. They are fighting for the scraps of a system that has left them with nothing. And then there are the markers. The final grade 12 papers are supposed to be marked by qualified, experienced educators. That is the rule, but the rule is a myth. People bribe their way into marking positions. They pay for the privilege. They use sexual favors. and once they are inside, they are part of the system. We saw the paper leaks in December 2025, where 7 exam papers were sold from inside the department. A departmental official copied them to a USB drive and sold them to a parent with a child in grade 12. We saw the EduMarks scandal, where a company was selling the 2024 results to learners for 100 rands before they were even released. The department says, "We caught them," but how many were not caught? How many were protected by their links to the union? How many markers are sitting there right now marking scripts while looking up the answers on their phones? It is a fraud from top to bottom. Consider the taxpayer. The minority of taxpayers in this country are paying for this entire circus. They pay for the education that fails the children. They pay for the grants that support the failed children. They pay for the RDP houses, the free electricity and the free water. And then they pay for the police to deal with the crime that follows, because a child who cannot read, write or calculate has no future and no hope. The crime statistics for 2025 are the worst in history. We recorded 19,500 murders in the first half of the year. The economic cost of crime is staggering. The taxpayer burden is crushing. And still the system tells them they are the oppressors. They are the ones who must pay for the sins of the past, while watching the future of the country be destroyed by the incompetence and corruption of the present. I am not speaking here as a pessimist. I am speaking as a realist. I want to tell you that there is a way out, but I cannot lie to you. The way out is not easy. It requires us to look at this system and admit that it has failed. It requires us to look at the politicians who have protected this union, who have allowed these SGBs to loot the schools, and who have celebrated these fraudulent pass rates, and it requires us to vote them out. It requires us to look at SAD2 and see it not as a union but as a criminal syndicate that is stealing the future of our children. It requires us to demand accountability, not just lip service. It requires us to support the brave few who are fighting this battle, who are reporting the corruption despite the death threats, who are trying to teach despite the lack of resources and support. We must stop pretending that 30% is a pass. We must stop celebrating an 88% pass rate that is built on a mountain of lies. We must recognize that our children are not failing, they are being failed. The system is a machine designed to manufacture dependency, not opportunity. We must demand that the department stop protecting the unqualified and start hiring the competent. We must demand that the police investigate the SGBs and the principals for theft. We must demand that the hawks arrest the union leaders who are arranging hits. We must demand that the government stop sending our tax money to line the pockets of those who are destroying the country. And we must demand that the education system, once and for all, be reformed from the ground up. We cannot fix grade 12 without fixing grade 1. If you are a parent, demand to know what your child is eating. Demand to see the books. Demand to see the qualifications of the teachers. If you are a taxpayer, demand to know where your money is going. If you are a voter, remember that the politicians who have presided over this decay are not your friends. They are the ones who have sold your future. The question is not whether South Africa has the political will to do this. The question is whether we, the people, have the will to force them to do it. The children are waiting, and the clock is ticking. We cannot afford another generation of lost souls, another cohort of unemployed, hopeless and angry young people who have been cheated by a system that promised them a better life. We need to rebuild the system, not just on paper, but in reality. We need teachers who know their subjects, we need schools that are safe, and we need a curriculum that teaches critical thinking and skills, not just spoon-feeding for a test that means nothing. And I know some of you might think, this is a white South African problem, or this is a black South African problem. But it is not. It is a South African problem. When the system fails the children in the rural areas, it fails everyone. The minority taxpayers in this country cannot sustain a welfare state that is built on the ruins of a failed education system. We are all in this together, whether we like it or not. The economy depends on a skilled workforce, The country depends on a functional society. We cannot have a functional society when 81% of 10-year-olds cannot read for meaning. We cannot have a functional society when our teachers are less capable than the learners they are supposed to teach. We cannot have a functional society when our schools are rape camps and feeding troughs for the corrupt. So, I say to you, watch this video until the end. Share it with everyone you know. Post it on WhatsApp, on Twitter, on Facebook. Send it to the people who are still in denial, to the people who think that the 88% pass rate is a cause for celebration. Let them see the truth. Let them see the anger and the frustration. Let them see the humanity of the children who are being trampled by a system that cares nothing for them. Do not just watch, act. If you have a story, tell us. If you have evidence, send it to the authorities. Demand that the authorities act. Do not let them sleep on this. This is a crisis, and it requires a crisis-level response. And most importantly, if you are a white South African, do not let the guilt of the past hold you back from speaking the truth. You are not the oppressor because you want to see the schools fixed. You are not the oppressor because you want to see the children educated. You are a citizen, and you have a right to demand a government that is competent, honest, and capable. The narrative of the oppressor and the oppressed is a weapon that is used by the corrupt to keep you silent. Do not be silent. Your taxes are being stolen. Your children's future is being destroyed. Your country is being hollowed out. Stand up and say something. If you have reached the end of this video, you are a patriot. You are someone who cares about South Africa, about its future, and about its children. I want to thank you for watching, for listening, and for caring. If this report moved you, please do me a favor, hit the like button. It helps more people see this truth. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a report. Share this video far and wide. Leave a comment below and tell us your thoughts, your experiences, and your frustrations. We are building a community of truth tellers, and your voice matters. If you can, please consider joining the channel membership or using the Super Thanks button. Your support helps us produce more content like this, investigate more stories, and give a voice to the voiceless. It helps us hold the powerful accountable. Every rand counts, every view counts, every share counts. Let us make sure that this message is heard by everyone, especially those who need to hear it the most. The fight for South Africa's future is on, and the battle is in the classroom. We cannot afford to lose. Thank you, South Africa.